Saros has a lot of really enjoyable boss fights, and in this video I'll be ranking how hard they were on a tier list from best to worst. We have all 8 of the bosses here, and I'll be doing a breakdown based on how difficult they were, and also take into account the biome that they're in, because certain ones like the Bladed Marsh are difficult because of the biome that they subject you to. And first off, we have the Prophet. Now, if you played Returnal, this may look a little familiar to you. The mechanics to this fight are actually very similar to the final boss in Returnal. Now, what makes this fight difficult is you're not going to be very high level. When you're first doing this, I was level 11. So having a low proficiency means that you're not going to have many benefits on your weapons themselves. So you're going to have kind of a hard time with this. If you come back and fight this boss later on after you get a ton of updates, you're going to be smooth sailing. Prominence is very powerful in this fight, and it's pretty much just about using your shield here to get your power weapon back so you can just keep blasting with Prominence. But you're doing so little damage that you're going to be going through this fight quite a bit. There are some very well telegraphed attacks though, and I didn't know at this point, but you can just melee the corrupted projectiles there, and this will make you get the power from them without taking any of the damage. But this boss wasn't really that bad. It did have some additional mobs that you could shoot at. One of them ended up dropping an Aether for me, so that was kind of nice, but 3 health bars, it is a challenge due to it being so early on, and you're not going to have the bunch of level ups at all. So you also likely won't have any Carcosa modifiers applied unless you were losing a bunch. I don't think it's possible to get it at this early on in the game. So I do think that this boss is actually a pretty solid challenge because, again, you're learning the mechanics at this point. It's mechanically not super tough in a certain regard, but you're learning the game at this point. And this, if the third phase is actually kind of intimidating because of those walls that come up. It's actually not that bad in real essence, but it does look a bit intimidating for a first time player. So I will put the Prophet boss probably around the B tier. I don't think it's like the easiest boss in this game, but it's not the hardest either. Which takes us to Bastion. Now, I really like the game Bastion, but this fight was actually really fun. Not super challenging here because you have these jump pads which let you avoid pretty much all the attacks. You also have the platforms up here which you can use for your own benefit to avoid. And for some of the more difficult attacks, you can actually use those platforms just to block the attacks entirely. If you're going for the achievement to get the shot, like hit all the projectiles in a shotgun, this is the best boss to do it with because it's stationary. You can get right underneath it and just blast with the shotgun. So yeah, this fight is honestly not too bad. It does have a few different phases that switch things up with the red projectiles. The really hardest attacks are like these ones here with those waves. If you end up jumping, like I ended up jumping way too high and ended up making it to the platform there, so I took a bit of damage. And again, I've only fought this boss at proficiency level around 20, so you're likely not going to be super high up. There are these red projectiles you can just end up jumping over. It's this attack here that's kind of overwhelming, and it makes it so that you have to use your shield quite a bit, and then the attack that it'll do after this, so it's creating these waves. But this one isn't really that bad. It's the next attack that I end up taking the most damage from because it comes out so quickly. It's going to keep blasting away with these waves, which is no big deal. It's this yellow charge up that it does, and then the beam attack. You can run away, but if you end up getting hit by that, it hurts a lot. But overall, I didn't find Bastion to be too difficult. This was a boss that I ended up getting on my first attempt, and I don't think it was that bad in all honesty, but I might say it is maybe like, it's roughly around the same, I would say, as the Prophet. For Prophet, you're just getting to know the game. This one maybe, it's very well telegraphed, so I'm going to put it below it on the B tier. Nothing super difficult, but a good fight nonetheless. It's actually really fun. I like the mechanics and using the arena. That's one thing I just want to quickly mention. This game actually makes great use of the arena, unlike some of the other bosses, like if you played Returnal. So I honestly think they did a solid job with this one. And our third boss here is Rhabdom. Now, I thought that this was a mini boss. I didn't think this was the actual main boss. It's not super brutal, honestly. And this is before, even in future runs, I realized that you can just continually keep using all the grapples in the arena. So this fight, I had low health, but I entered this fight with low health. I only did a level 26 proficiency. The red projectiles and the fast attacks can be intimidating. I honestly think this is probably the easiest boss in the game. It's actually not that bad because after you fight it, in the Bladed Marsh, it's a mini boss there. So I think that they also anticipated this wasn't too hard of a boss. And actually, when you fight it in the Bladed Swamp, I think it's a little bit harder because you don't have all the grapple points. This arena is really super useful in this fight just because, again, you have all these here which make you invincible. And if you wanted to, you could just jump around between the 4 of those and just continually keep grappling around so you don't take any damage and use a different weapon that's just going to give you some extra, like a smart rifle. It makes it easier to aim. Rhabdom was not hard at all. I think that this is the easiest boss. I'm going to put it in the C tier. It scales up a lot more as we get a little further on. Now we got Legion, our fourth boss, and as mentioned, you're going to fight Rhabdom before you fight this boss because they show up as a mini boss in the Bladed Marsh. Now, I have a feeling they'll probably nerf the Bladed Marsh because I've gotten so many comments on how terrible that region is, and I agree, it's awful. It's one of the worst in this game, just because the map itself doesn't have that much great RNG. From many runs of that area, it's not super good. You do get the crossbow though in this area, so yeah, the area itself is hard in Legion, but this attack here was kind of annoying. You can shoot at all these extra little clone enemies here. Another thing about this boss is these enemies start showing up later on and they have little health, but they damage you so much. So yeah, these enemies are kind of annoying. This boss in particular though, it's a good challenge. What makes this fight so tough though is obviously you run back to it, but actually hitting the boss because it has its little bodyguards there blocking for you. You can see me using the alt fire on the repeater crossbow here, having a hard time doing any damage to Legion. That was my mistake. Using the basic crossbow attack there, you can see with the 4 bolts firing right at it, I'm getting a lot more damage off. This one will be a very difficult fight if you're using the marksman hand cannon or the onslaught rifle. The auto aim on the guns does help out quite a bit. Another thing with auto aim is you still have to aim your screen at it for maximum damage. You're going to see little dots connecting where you should be aiming to, so you can get more damage just from aiming mainly on the middle of the screen here. I think that the Legion fight overall it's a fun fight, it's a challenging one, but it's mostly getting the challenge from the earlier sections of this map. Coming into this with very low health really sucks, so if you have the Carcosan modifier to give yourself more health, it makes a big difference. Another thing here is the overdrive is such a powerful ability here because especially saving it for the end phase of this fight. When you get into this attack, I hated that attack there with them circling around. So I just use it to take out a huge chunk of the boss's health bar and give me a bit of a second to breathe there. I end up taking some damage. That was probably the worst attack on this here. I have to say Legion is definitely an A tier boss. If they nerf the Bladed Marsh, this will probably be easier by nature. The boss itself's not super bad. Like some of the attacks you just end up taking damage, but Legion's a good challenge. I'm throwing in the A tier. And next we got the Architect. Now, this is a true bullet hell boss. Look at all these projectiles on the map. It's tough. It's a tough one. It tries to overwhelm you, and it's a flyer. So, you know what that means. If you're using the marksman hand cannon, or if you're using the onslaught rifle, you're going to have a harder time. It's also a huge health sponge. Like you have a hard time actually doing meaningful damage. You can see there. This was a really good run. My proficiency level is 38 in this fight, and even then I was having a hard time. It's going to shoot the corrupted projectiles at you. Another thing again is you can melee them just to avoid taking any damage and getting the power back from them. And where it really hurts you is when you get that red circle there and you can't use your shield. It just overwhelms you with blue projectiles when your shield's already broken, making this even harder. It will also leave those red projectiles there on the field, so you basically have to just deal with it. For that attack there, you can just walk between the projectiles. That was the best way. Dashing didn't really, dashing is nice, but it was just easier to move between them because there was actual gaps between them. Again, that was another time where my shield ended up breaking, wasn't able to absorb the projectiles. It tries to overwhelm you a lot. You can do that though, like being able to jump, dash into the projectiles and then parry them is kind of funny. It has 3 distinct phases, where this attack here used to screw me over until I realized you can shoot the projectiles to make it so that you don't get overwhelmed like that. If you don't shoot any of those projectiles, you're going to take damage. It's like, I think, impossible to avoid taking damage if you don't at least shoot at them. It keeps knocking you around there and then leaving off with projectiles there. This is honestly super hard. Another one where if you end up in a bad position, that attack there with those red projectiles, it's just better for you to avoid it because you'll get hit like that. So yeah, I found the Architect to be one of the hardest bosses in this game. Flyers typically are a bit more challenging. You're a bit more limited in what weapons are going to work best for you as well. So you can see there, he's put a big V mark on the ground there, making it impossible if I didn't do the parry attack there to move around. He'll then at the end here, I got knocked out, but I made it back. He just tries to overwhelm me by knocking you down and doing a forge wave when you jump off. Those waves really sucked. I was getting hit left, right, and center by it. But honestly, the Architect, I'm putting the S tier. This fight, it took me a few attempts. This is like, the other ones didn't really getting through the Blade Marsh was really hard, but this boss itself was hard in general. And next we got Shepherd. Now, this is a funny fight because I didn't really realize I was playing this one on stream and I was able to beat him. I didn't realize I didn't know what the resilient volatile meant. It means you can't see his health bar. So I went through this entire fight just thinking you couldn't hurt this boss. Really silly. I did it on stream. I wasn't really paying attention. I was just engaging with chat. It wasn't that hard though. Compared to the Architect like I did prior to this fight, this one was a nice breath of fresh air. I gotta say though, this is the coolest designed boss in the entire game. I don't normally like squids and Cthulhu like enemies, but this was so cool, especially in the second phase. It did have some really nice, like those wave style attacks were very thematic because this is like an ocean creature and doing those attacks was really cool. But as far as the challenge goes, it wasn't that bad, to be honest. Its projectiles were very well telegraphed. The arena, despite having those squid arms going around, wasn't too bad to be able to avoid the attacks. I ended up getting hit with that there, but yeah, that was not that bad. It's when its skull face here comes out. This was so cool. Easy to fall off the arena though too. But those come in large waves. I was just being dumb and making my way get into it. You can parry the attacks that come off of the tentacles there when they come to the side of the arena. That's the only thing that's kind of difficult, is just knowing to jump and dodge often. And you can parry, or you can punch the corrupted projectiles again. But yeah, the spectacle of this fight was seriously so cool. It did bring out those wave attacks again, but now they're the Nova projectiles you can't dash through. So it did have some tricks up its sleeve that were kind of challenging. I thought that this was a really cool fight. I kept falling off the arena here, but yeah, I was able to take it down on stream. I didn't really know because of the health bar situation if this was like a main boss or what it was, but yeah, honestly, the Shepherd boss wasn't that bad compared to the other ones. So I'd have to say, like, it is a tough-ish fight. I'm going to put it probably above the Prophet in the B tier, but I do think that our previous bosses, the Architect and the Legion bosses, were a bit more challenging than this one. And next we got the Priestess fight. Now this one is fun because it has a few different mechanics going on that you got to pay attention to. Now the 3 phases, the first one is very different from the rest of them. The stages are beautiful in this, but as far as the challenge goes, it's just a matter of knowing what to do. I've done this fight a few times now, and the really hardest part is when it overwhelms you with the multiple of them here. You do have to run over and ring the bells to make it so that they go back together and they stop trying to do as many projectiles as possible at you. I did with the bifurcator crossbar here, which was a really powerful weapon, but you can see here exactly what you need to do. Just go in and punch those. Now, I made a mistake of jumping back into this here. You want to punch it and stay there because that's going to destroy the projectiles. And after you hit the 3rd bell here, they all go back together. You can't damage it until this happens. You can see the health bar has the lines through it, so you can't actually damage it until they get fused back into the same projectile or person here. So this fight is pretty fun. And then once you get into the later section, it's just this boss again. I gotta say, this is one of my favorite bosses in the game because it's just so scenic. It does overwhelm you with a lot of projectiles. It's honestly quite a tough fight, and yeah, you do have a really cool falling apart arena there where you're constantly having to move around. It's honestly one of the harder fights in this game, but it's not the hardest, I would say. I would actually say the Architect's even worse in this one, but yeah, don't do what I did there. It was invincible and I wasted my overdrive there. I felt really silly after that. But again, you're just going to have to go ring the bells here. And you should also ring that bell by hitting the subscribe button below if you enjoyed this Saros video. I've been posting a lot of different content on all the newest releases. So yeah, hit the subscribe button. Really appreciate it. But I'd have to say here, Priestess, if you get a good roll, not too bad of a fight. Even with a bad roll, I had a few different attempts with this fight with different weapons. The bifurcator for crossbow just ended up being my favorite choice here. So I'd have to say, this one is going up into the high A tier. I would have to say this fight itself is harder than the Legion fight. Legion has a harder area before it. I actually really like the area that we're at for this fight. Or I guess the lead up to this fight. Although I fell off the arena many times leading up to the Priestess fight, it was a good one. And finally, we have King, who is the final boss. And to get the true ending, you actually have to beat King twice. This is the only boss you actually have to beat twice in order to get the true ending of the game. It does have some difficult mechanics. I think the hardest part about this is you get no second chance. After going the entire game relying on the second chance, this is a tough cookie. Now, what makes this hard is that the second phase is just going to be complete hell. The 3rd phase isn't too bad, but it's that second phase that's rough. For the first phase, it's going to mostly be using blue projectiles and the homing projectiles. That's fine. But it's when it starts bringing out the Nova projectiles into phase 2 and you really don't have an answer to it, it becomes tough. It'll also dash at you really quickly. There is an audio cue for that to know when it's coming at you, but it comes out so quickly that sometimes it's just hard to pay attention. This attack also sucked with the rings and all that. It was a hard one to avoid. You just have to jump and dash. And then another thing here, it has a big wall of red projectiles around it while shooting these at you, and you need to go in and shoot melee it. This is where I lost most of my health in each of the runs that I did. That attack here is just so brutal. Here's another version of it. I had a bit better luck there. before I was able to do this big burst attack. The king is a tough one. I just found that the third phase wasn't too bad because you could absorb some of the corrupted projectiles and not have to worry because your health is already going to be pretty low, so you're not losing really anything from that. And here's a run I had with the marksman hand cannon, the marksman hand pistol, the one that has doesn't have auto aim on it. It was a bit more challenging. I was able to take it out though because the marksman pistol has an alternative fire that lets you aim onto the boss, and then you can automatically aim at it. So that's what I was doing there, and it made this fight so much better. Honestly, some of the ones like the onslaught rifle and the marksman hand cannon are so good. Even if you're not great at manually aiming, you can use that alt fire to make sure that they all keep hitting him in the head, and it just makes this fight much easier. This is Jump Rope Simulator. You're constantly hopping over those waves that it keeps shooting at you, and this is a tough fight. Mostly, if you had the second chance, it wouldn't be as bad, but you're going without that, and it's going to negate a lot of the effects that you may have purchased from the skill tree as well. So yeah, it's honestly a tough one, and I'd have to say that King is going to go up into the S tier. And honestly, between it and Architect, it's kind of a tough choice. I'd have to say King is probably a little bit worse than the Architect, but the Architect is a really tough fight as well. I could make an argument saying the Architect is worse too. Flyers are always going to be a challenge, but between the two of these, they're some of the hardest bosses in this game, easily enough, and obviously things like Rhabdom not being too difficult. But that's my tier list there, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're watching this from the start of the video, go back and watch the sections to get the full context on why I rated it a certain way. But yeah, if you found this video fun or useful, please hit the subscribe button below, and I hope you guys all have an incredible day.